Pleased to be joined by Longhorns team athletic trainer Laef Morris, who's had I would say, an interesting route to get here to Austin. Tell everybody about your background and the path you took to arrive in Austin, Texas.
Well, Craig, first I just want to say that I'm just here so I won't get fined.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's good to know that.
Rick made that very clear to me.
That's important.
No, I'm originally from Missouri. Grew up in northeast Missouri, little town outside of Hannibal, Missouri, about 2,000 people, and so I'm very familiar with the rural Midwestern ways, and grew up there, and went to school at Missouri State University, then Southwest Missouri State University, and got into athletic training down there. Spent 4 years in the athletic training program down there. Worked with all sorts of teams on campus at Missouri State University, and loved it. So as I graduated from Missouri State, I decided I wanted to continue my education in athletic training. At the time, there were 13 schools that offered a graduate degree in athletic training, so I decided to go to University of Oregon, and spent 2 years there with the softball team, the football team at Oregon. And that started a 10-year stint for me on the West Coast there. So I spent 2 years at Oregon. I spent a year at Sacramento State University, and then 7 years down at UCLA.
Wow. And then Austin as well, which is a lot different from a lot of other places you've been.
Yeah, it was a bit of a difference coming from Southern California and ended up in Austin for sure. The weather's a little different. But it's been great. My family came out here with me, my wife Allison and my two daughters Harper and Reagan, and Austin has been a great place for the family. And there's not a lot of places that you can come work at UCLA and come and feel like you're making a step up, and the opportunity came up here at Texas, and I just jumped at it.
And there's always that adjustment phase for anybody that has a family, that adjustment for the wife, adjustment for the children, that sort of thing as well. But you're saying it all went kind of almost seamless for them?
Well, we're still adjusting our wardrobe, I think, a little bit. As I said, the climate is a little bit different, and outside of Austin, it's not easy to find a burnt orange wardrobe. So that has been a little bit of a challenge. But we're catching up pretty quickly. And yeah, the adjustment has gone really well. Austin's a great place, as you're obviously well aware too.
And that's because also the wardrobe, because you have all of that red and white St. Louis Cardinal stuff, right? Yeah, I'm told you're a dyed-in-the-wool Cardinals baseball fan. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We're coming up on spring training. March is such a great month because it's the best time of year for college basketball. It's the best time of year as a baseball fan because
there's hope for everybody.
There's hope for everyone, especially Cubs fans. Every year. So I got to get that shot into all those Cubs fans out there. So
spoken like a true Cardinal fan. Coming up, Rick Barnes will rejoin us. I want to talk a little more with Laef and with the coach about how busy he's been this particular season in rehabbing Isaiah Taylor and talking about some other things as well when Longhorn Weekly continues right here on the Longhorn Network and the Longhorn IMG Radio Network. We welcome you back to Longhorn Weekly with head basketball coach Rick Barnes, also team athletic trainer Laef Morris with us. You've had several different trainers in your time here at Texas. How was Laef similar or different than the others?
Well, I think the first thing, anytime you have someone that's in his field, and I know we have some people by radio listening, some people watching by TV, I think you should always take that time for him to show you how he does mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
Oh, wow.
I think you should give us a lesson with Craig.
No. And from what I've been told, too, when you resuscitate now, you don't do the mouth-to-mouth anymore, right?
They say that the pumping is much more effective and important. But coaches, he's been trying to get me to do mouth-to-mouth.
That's not true, because this year everybody in the athletic department had to do a course. Mm-hmm. And we had to do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
Well, they dumbed that course down a little bit.
Really? Well, are we gonna? Can you show me then the real deal with you and Craig?
I'll tell you what. Instead of that, I wanted to give you a chance to show folks and those watching, and you can explain it for those listening on radio as well, about the rehab work that you had to do with Isaiah Taylor's wrist after he broke the wrist. And I know there's a period of rest and recovery while the fracture's healing. But then after that, what about the actual work that you did with that wrist?
Well, Isaiah came out of the cast, and the time between when he came out of the cast and when he played his first game, I think there were 12 days. So he had been immobilized for 4 weeks. And so our main goal during that time was just to work on his range of motion. The wrist is a joint has a lot of bones in there, and it's designed for mobility. But after you put it in a cast for 4 weeks, it comes out very stiff. So we had a lot of work to do to regain his mobility. So that first week, he was in 3-4 times a day. We were working on his mobility. I apologize, I didn't bring my torture tools with me to show how we use instruments to really get in there and break up scar tissue. But it would be a lot of instruments to massage out that scar tissue, and also utilizing the knowledge of how each individual bone, and half of your bones in your body are located either in your wrists and hands or your ankles and your feet. So there are a lot of bones in there, and making sure that each one is moving correctly so that he regains the motion that he needed.
I got the feeling it wasn't very comfortable for him.
I'm going to plead the fifth on that, but I think Isaiah would probably give you a pretty accurate answer.
What I would tell you is, I think when you talk about your program, the things that I think are really important. I mean, obviously, I talk a lot about, if I'm recruiting, about our academic program, but I always get into our support people, and that's including so many people. But you talk about what Randy Ryan does, and Todd Wright in the strength and conditioning program. Then you talk about what Scott McConnell does, and then what Laef does. I think people really don't realize that is the real. It's everything in your program. Those positions right there. And when Laef first got here, and I've been very fortunate in my career, I've had some great trainers, and I don't know, I think that when Laef got here, like anybody else, he has to get to know me a little bit, and I think over time he realizes that I'm not much into wanting to hear about who's hurt, who's not, just who's going to practice, Yeah. And because he's very conscientious, he wants to do the right thing, and I trust him because he came highly recommended. I mean, he got a tremendous recommendation from Ben Howland and other people that knew him, and he came in. But I don't think people realize too, though, Laef, that where you are, and obviously you've gone to school, but I think coaches, you don't ever stop trying to learn the game, and in your field, the same thing. You're always trying to continue to learn something else, and talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. In fact, before I came here, I'd spent about an hour this morning on the internet, a course I'm taking, a year-long course on movement and applied functional science, and learning that. But medicine is an ever-changing field, and if you don't continue to learn when you're in the medical field, then you're going to end up doing things or believing things that are constantly changing. Much like science, but medicine especially. The more we learn as time goes on about the body, that completely can change how we would approach something, and how I approach an injury such as Isaiah's in 2014 or 2015 can be completely different than I would have in 2012, because new research has come forward and new techniques that I've learned. So.
One thing too, like I mentioned those people, Todd and Randa and Laef and Scott. I don't think from the outside people would understand how much time the players, and how you have to work with Randa with their academic schedule to go around that schedule. What Scott does, where our guys are moving and doing more things than people can ever imagine.
It's a world of constant motion there.
Absolutely, and people I think also don't realize the time commitment the student athletes have, and if they're not in class, then they're with Randa getting their extra studying done, and then they're with me getting ready for practice, and then they're in practice, and then they're with Todd working on their strength and conditioning and working on their bodies. And so that coordination is sometimes it's a well-oiled machine, and sometimes there's a little bit of rust in there, but it's definitely a challenge at times to figure out where they're going to, get in everything that they need to get done.
Laef, thanks for dropping by. We appreciate it. All right, that's Laef Morris. Rick and I will be back to wrap up this week's edition of Longhorn Weekly here in a moment.